How you felt about the kiss on the lip?
That's the business. I'm nothing to do with that.
And I find that was distasteful.
The national senior team, whether you like it or not, that is the model for all other teams to follow.
I'm assuming that the regional requirement may be a much stricter requirement.
This is not about Pro League and Super League. This is a league run by the Normalization Committee that I'm responsible for.
Nobody expected FIFA to fund this arrangement.
If we don't get a professional attitude towards this, we are doomed for failure.
You break the balance, trip the leg, control the body.
They ain't gonna stand put forever.
Why you want the Chiefs to lose so? Why you want the Chiefs to lose so?
They already have two. Lamar don't
Why?
have.
You're jealous because you know the Chiefs getting closer to the Patriots. Let's go to the last part.
No,
of the game.
no.
Let's go to the last part.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. Before we even start this repatriation and reintegration process, we've already failed or are we doomed to fail?
You've got to invest in the institutions that you've established to carry out those sorts of core functions.
We now get into the regional updates to give you an understanding of what's happening across our neighboring islands.
We have available a number of films that are worth showing.
So it was day one when the French Revolution started to develop the concept of universal human rights.
What happened this time is unprecedented. It's one of the largest terrorist attacks in history.
Let's welcome Carl to the program. Carl is over there next to Steph. Hello, Carl.
Silky anteater or pygmy anteater, and we have two of the three species of anteaters right here.
WESN.
Hello there and welcome to AM Prime on WESN Content Capital. I'm Keaton Shaw. Thank you very much for joining us this morning. We will be welcoming our guest shortly, but in the interim, there are a couple of news stories which we can report to you, some of which you may be familiar with already. Let's start with the controversy surrounding the opposition leader's appearance at the Diwali Nagar on Saturday. And I use the word controversy as it relates to TTT and their live broadcast of the celebrations taking place at the Diwali Nagar. Now, when the opposition leader was due to actually speak, give a speech to the viewing audience, both at the Nagar and, of course, by the live stream, TTT's broadcast cut. Now, when it cuts, it was just said about you. She was just about to speak, and TTT did state that it was currently experiencing technical difficulties. Let's just put it like that, not quoting in verbatim from what was stated by the admin of TTT at that time. But what people found even more strange, particularly it seems as though members of the opposition, is that as the opposition leader finished with her speech, TTT's live stream, suddenly all those technical difficulties were no longer difficult. It came back to life, as they said. What is happening now is a turn of events as is expected. TTT is the state-run media organization. Now, I think it's very important that we clarify a couple of things. State-run does not necessarily mean government-run. It's supposed to be state-owned. State-owned, it's the television station of the state of TNT. But, of course, the government is funding it. That's how TTT runs its operations. Let's not try and be silly about it. Government is, of course, funding the operations of TTT Limited. And it stated that TTT really has become a political platform for the government of the day. There have been suggestions that during the time of the People's Partnership government, similar things happened, though at this point I'm not in a position to give examples of that. But there have always been question marks surrounding the operations of TTT, particularly really running on behalf of the government and really pushing the government's messaging. Because of that, of course, this has become a huge political controversy because it's something that is currently dominating news cycles. News has been really slow lately, hasn't it? Now, the latest, of course, is that the chairman of the United National Congress actually has written to TTT asking for some sort of clarification in relation to this particular issue. No clarification has been given as yet. TTT has apologized. They have issued an apology, and they have indicated that they will actually air the opposition leader's speech in full via its social platforms. Is that acceptable? Well, we're yet to actually hear from the chairman of the NCIC. Sorry, I keep saying NCC, forgive me, it's NCIC, the National Council for Indian Culture. Apologies for that mistake. But we are yet to hear from the chairman, Dear Optimal, in respect to this particular situation. But the latest twist as well, adding to it, is the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin. And I have to be quite honest with you, I'm not familiar with this organization at all. I have no clue who they are. It's quite new to me, but the Global Organization of People of Indian Origin has written to the NCIC to rescind the NCIC's invitation to Stuart Young to speak on the closing night of the Diwali Nagar. That is tomorrow night. Now, in defending its call, GoPio, the acronym for the organization, said Young offended Hindu women with the recent salacious comments towards the opposition leader during the budget debate, and is unworthy of speaking at a religious event of the stature of the Diwali Nagar. It also stated that Young, it claimed that Young showed a Ravanic behavior towards all women of this country. Ravana, of course, being the 10-headed demon king in Hindu mythology. It's also the primary antagonist in the Ramayana. Now, this has gone a little too far. This situation has gone very, very far and unnecessary. It's totally out of whack now. Again, not familiar with this organization, GoPio. I'm wondering now if my commentary on this might say, hey, listen, he shouldn't even bother to come to the Diwali Nagar, because I disagree with this. I disagree with this. I'll tell you what. Yes, I can agree that Stuart Young's comments were very offensive, but not offensive to just Hindu women. Let's get that clear. Not offensive to just Hindu women or Indian women. It's offensive to all women. It was offensive to everyone in Trinidad and Tobago, as far as I'm concerned, because such commentary language does not belong in the parliament. We know that. We've said that already. We've gone through this. Stuart Young issued an apology, and I thought that the apology could have been better timed and better written, because it was via social media, and of course, I found flaws in his apology as well. But not only did he apologize via social media, he apologized to the parliament as well. And that apology is on Hansard. Now, whether or not you agree with it, whether or not you are pleased with it, the mere fact is he was admonished by the Speaker of the House. He did apologize, and it's on Hansard. This is not the first incident for something like this to take place by a member of the government. Government is made up of all sitting MPs, cabinet, as well as the opposition. The opposition have found themselves in hot water for commentary many a times previously, but I'm sure that is irrelevant at this point. But for an organization to saying that rescind Young's invitation because he was offensive to Hindu women, listen, the member of parliament The Minister of Everything has apologized. He has given his apology. This just is becoming very silly. And at this particular point, I think we should try and ignore this nonsense. This does not, we should not be encouraging this level of behavior. We should not be encouraging this level of division. The same level of hatred that we are arguing against, that we are standing up against, is the same level of hatred and division that we are now trying to encourage. I thought the whole concept of Diwali was light over darkness. Allow Stuart Young to come. Maybe he might get some light in his life. Allow him to be present. Maybe he might get some light in his life. And maybe those who are present can pray for him and help him, you know, with the mistakes or the sins that he has committed in the eyes of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. But to rescind his invitation on the basis that he has demonstrated Ravanic behavior, which again, you're comparing him to Ravana, and then to say that he has insulted, he has offended Hindu women in his recent salacious comments. No, it's not just Hindu women. I think that's a correction. It's all women. It's not just Hindu women. It's not just Indian women. It's all women. And I'm repeating that because this level of division and hatred needs to stop. But again, what is the whole point of Diwali? What is the whole point of the Diwali Nagar? What is it that we are celebrating? So, please, Trinidad and Tobago, oftentimes we get very angry and frustrated with a lot of situations, but we take it a lot further than it should go. We take it to an extent that is unnecessary. And I keep saying this, and I'm going to repeat myself for the 10th time this morning. The level of hatred that we always are trying to protest against and stand up against, why is it that that seems to be our response all the time to these situations? It is getting frustrated because we are becoming the perpetrators of our own demise at that particular point. We are becoming the creators of the division that we do not like or we do not appreciate. So, to the NTIC, yes, I believe that there needs to be some clarification in respect to exactly what happened with TTT. They've come out and they said it was technical. Timing seems very odd and strange, I would agree, but they've indicated that they will replay in full the opposition leader's entire speech at the Diwali Nagar. I don't know how the NCIC would respond to that, and I'm yet to hear any sort of response from the opposition in respect to that. But again, that is something that needs to be sorted out. Now that I'm hearing from Gopio, and I don't know, I really am not entirely sure if this is in response to what TTP did, but the timing is odd, isn't it? The timing seems to be very off. Come on, this is stupid. It's ridiculous. I really don't agree with this. I really don't endorse this. As far as I'm concerned, this is not me showing support for any one politician. And this is not me against any one politician or any political entity or political organization. But religious festivals, religious organizations need to remain apolitical as far as I'm concerned. And if politicians want to skew the line between state and religion, then that's a separate issue. We can surely talk about that. But at this particular point, whomever Gopio is, the global organization of people of Indian origin, whomever they are, who's ever running it, I'm sorry. I disagree with your position. I'm not in favor of it. Let Stuart Young appear. Let light over darkness be the conqueror of Diwali. Let's not try and get our messages skewed for whatever reason. Let him be present. Let him be there. Ladies and gentlemen, whether or not you agree with me, that's entirely up to you. We all have our opinions. But as far as I'm concerned, if there is change that is due to happen in Trinidad and Tobago, if there's change that we want, we are the ones that have to actually create that for ourselves. We are the ones that are going to have to make it happen. Moving forward, ladies and gentlemen, and this is a story that actually happened the last week of Friday, and I haven't had time to discuss it as yet, hoping to discuss it on Talking Point. But Public Administration Minister Alison West has made it clear that there's no shortage of jobs available within the public sector. Now, she has acknowledged that young people are facing difficulties in finding employment. Not just young people, Minister, I think all people across Trinidad and Tobago are finding it difficult. But the point is, people who have gone to university and have graduated are going to find it more and more difficult to get a job. That's just the reality of the situation. So saying that there's no shortage of jobs available in the public sector does not necessarily help with graduates and young people finding job. Interestingly, she also indicated that there are over 13,000 permanent job vacancies in the public sector. That is absolutely interesting. She went on to say that she reached out to the Service Commissions Department 2 weeks prior to this particular conversation on Friday, where she was actually speaking at a career fair hosted by the ministry at NAPA. And she said 55,000 permanent jobs in the public service, almost 25% of the entire public service workforce were vacant, and those are vacancies to be filled. Really? It's interesting. Okay, I say that it's interesting because if the Service Commission Department is saying that there were 55,000 vacancies, 25% of that. Sorry, my apologies. Let me get my statistics correct. There are 55,000 jobs in the public service, 25% of which are vacant. That 25% is 13,000 jobs. No problem, my bad. In that respect, could the government afford to actually fill those vacancies? Why are there 13,000 vacancies available within the public sector? We have no shortage of graduates. Is it a shortage of specialized graduates in particular fields? Is the brain drain affecting Trinidad and Tobago where we do not have enough individuals to fill these vacancies? Or is it a matter that the government simply do not have the funds that are available to fill these 13,000 vacancies? How are these 13,000 vacancies affecting the efficiency or the effectiveness of the operations of the government of Trinidad and Tobago? How is it affecting productivity? I have all these questions because I am curious to know what are the delays in respect to filling those 13,000 vacancies. How many graduates do we have exiting tertiary education institutions on an annual basis? Why is it that they are not in a position to fill these vacancies? Those are the explanations that are necessary. I don't think it's fruitful in any sense to come out and say there are no shortage of jobs when clearly those jobs cannot be filled. But if you take a look recently at all media pages, you would see graduations at the University of the wesn, for example. All of last week they held graduations, and I wonder how many of those graduates are going to have to wait before they get a permanent job. So yes, Minister Alison West, I appreciate the information, but again, I want to know, what are the difficulties in filling those vacancies? Why haven't they been filled? How is the brain drain affecting Trinidad and Tobago? Do we have the funding? Does the government have the funds to hire these individuals full-time? How is it affecting productivity? Those are the more important questions. Because we've been waiting for the longest while, by the way, for a work-from-home policy. We still can't get that. So I wonder, with silly season taking place, whether or not now there's going to be a push to try and fill those 13,000 vacancies. I know possibly 1,000 of those vacancies alone are from the TTPS, because the government said we're going to be hiring 1,000 more, we're going to be recruiting 1,000 more police officers. So those are probably part of the 30,000 vacancies. we're creating employment in that regard. We never mind about the resourcing of the TTPS, sir. Never mind the resources that are necessary to ensure that these 1,000 extra officers, or the existing officers anyway in the workforce, are able to execute their jobs to their best in respect to TTPS practices, whatever that is anyway. But again, 13,000 jobs, great, excellent. Great. What are we doing to fill those jobs? Could we afford to fill those jobs, or is it going to be 3-month contracts again? The banks have now actually, in that regard, you remember when it was a problem before, we were seeing 3 months contracts? People are going to get difficulties in getting loans. People are going to have difficulties in purchasing a home, in purchasing a vehicle. The banks have now adapted to help that situation. Again, the system has broken down. This government paused on hiring people for a year, young people for a year. The service commissions were basically, when it came to hiring people, that system was just vacant in itself. And I guess it started operating again. 13,000 vacancies. In 6 months' time, I wonder how many vacancies will exist in the public service. I look forward to getting that report. Now, one more story to just share with you before we take a break. It's actually coming out of the United States in respect to the US elections that are due to be held next week, Monday. There are investigations that are taking place after early morning fires were set to ballot boxes in Portland, Oregon, and in Vancouver, Washington. Hundreds of ballots have been destroyed. The FBI, of course, are now going through with an investigation to understand exactly what transpired. I am curious to know, in respect to those ballots that were destroyed, obviously it's going to be difficult to tell exactly whose ballot was in what box. There would be voting lists to suggest these were individuals that actually voted at these polling stations. Yeah, I know there's a lot to go through it, but does that now suggest that these ballots and individuals who have casted their votes, those no longer is their vote going to count in any sense of the form? Is it that these ballots have been completely lost? In the fire, yes, I understand. I'm not arguing in respect to that. Is there going to be an investigation which will allow for these individuals to vote again? I can't necessarily see it happening. I don't know in respect to what is going to be the next step, because early voting started about a month ago, and the election date is set for next week, Monday. But in respect to these particular ballots, one would only assume that they are now completely lost in respect to those votes being counted. If you understand what I'm coming from, yes, they were destroyed in the fire. The individuals who casted their ballots, I suppose their voice or their vote no longer counts in any way at all. I don't know if they'll be able to re-vote again, even if there's a system in place that could figure out exactly whose individuals' ballots were casted in which ballot boxes. Again, all these things alien to me in that particular point, because it's the United States and their electoral system is very much different to us. Their rules and their laws are very much different to us. Their provisions are different to us. But that is what's coming out of the United States. No one has been apprehended as yet up until this particular point, but we will see what takes place. There was also another incident that took place in Vancouver on October 8th in respect to a device found near a ballot box, a suspicious device that did not destroy the ballot box or destroy any ballot. But the election is very tight. It's very, very close. It's very difficult to call a winner at this point. All the polls are suggesting Donald Trump is rising and is really climbing. And it would be a concern to Democrats. But at this point, we can't really call anything. We'll wait to see what happens next week, Monday night. I know many people will be glued to their television because there's even a Make America Great Again election night party that is being hosted by one former journalist in Trinidad, that's Lee George. So if you're interested in that, then reach out. I know that the flyers are circulating on social media. Ladies and gentlemen, let's take a break here on the program, and when we return, let's get into some conversations with our guests. Stay tuned.
Transform your home with PCU Plus. From stylish furniture to the latest appliances, we have everything you need to create your perfect space. At PCU Plus, we offer fair prices and affordable financing options that are cheaper than hire purchase agreements. With convenient locations in San Fernando, Tobago, Arima, and our lifestyle showroom in Barataria, you're never far from the best deals. Visit PCU Plus today and discover why we're the top choice for quality furniture and appliances. PCU Plus. Quality you trust, prices you'll love. Visit one of our locations or find us online to start transforming your home today.
When it comes to Pira and Laddu, I just use Chatak's Laddu and Pira Mithai Mix. It's a combination of traditional ingredients in one pack. I don't spend all that time preparing different ingredients like Ma. 3/4 of the work is done. So now I can make fresh, delicious Pira and Laddu in about 15 minutes with the convenience of Chatak's Laddu and Pira Mithai Mix. Now Ma's Kitchen is a Chatak kitchen. Now available Gulab Jamun Instant Mithai Mix.
Very first day they opened, my mother and my father and I came in here. I love to see it. It's neat, really, really neat.
You know, we have many sections in Price Club. The food court section is a variety here.
Any one of them you ask, they are very helpful. I love it.
We get low price, specials and everything every day.
The prices are very, very good. It's cheaper than everywhere I've been.
The season of lights is bright and tasty with Royal Castle's delightful veggie burger made with a healthy and nutritious patty. It's great on its own or in a combo with one side and a 16-ounce drink. So whether it's lunch, dinner or a snack, Royal Castle's veggie burger fits right in with your fasting and festivities. Happy Diwali from Royal Castle.
Perfection doesn't happen by chance. Like an artist, the cook selects the main ingredient, one that is worthy of a proud cultural tradition. Trusted to enhance your creations with its richness and versatility. To create a cooking masterpiece, the secret is simple. The brand we know, the brand we trust, the brand our ancestors have been using for generations.
There is only one pure cow brand ghee. Look for the marks of authenticity.
Lighting up for Diwali just got simple with the easy-to-use Anand brand wax diyas. They're scientifically engineered to last longer, burn brighter, and keep on lighting. Anand brand wax diyas do not require any prepping or filling and has less spillage and cleanup. These diyas are recommended for outdoor use and can withstand light wind and rain. Plus, they're eco-friendly. Redeem your use cases for cash back. So put some green innovation into your Diwali celebrations with Anand brand wax diyas.
Welcome back to the program, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us this morning. We're getting into our conversations with our guests, starting with Tobago Carnival, which concluded on Sunday. Only good things I've heard about it. Was not present. Well, with all that I've heard about it, it's very heartbreaking that I was not present. But I'm joined this morning by the Tobago October Carnival Association's head, Dexter Sandy. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Kitan, and good morning to all of your viewers.
Thanks for joining us. Well, first of all, congratulations on what is being described as a fantastic Tobago Carnival. Only good reports are coming from all the celebrations. Tell me, as you report us this morning, on behalf of the association, what has been the feeling and what has been the results of Tobago Carnival 2024?
Yeah, well, let me start off with at least commending all the members of TOCA, all the band leaders that would have been working hard over the last 10 months, preparing for what we just engaged in over the past few days. Carnival, it was really a lot taken from us at the time and planning, but I must say it was well executed on the side with regards to mass. We started on Saturday morning with Juve, it was really exciting. A lot of bands got a lot of higher participation when it came to Juve. I must say that Tobago has a Juve culture, so you saw a lot more Tobagonians coming out and supporting for Juve. Preliminary information that came in yesterday says that the carnival on a whole had over 30,000 persons participating. Yeah, I mean, this is preliminary data, so I'm getting it just out of the media, just as anybody else. But it's really encouraging to see the participation level. I know that straight out of Juve, we went into the rhythm, steel, and powder in the afternoon. We even had the night mass, and the night mass also was well executed. On Sunday, it was the climax. All the bands showed up on the road. The masqueraders enjoyed the experience. I made a rounds whilst I was on the road, and the band leaders were so happy that, you know, they're seeing the fruits of their labor. And due to our organization and the things that we'd have put in place prior to Carnival, they're really happy that they were able to pull through on Sunday.
Well, you said Tobago has a Juve culture, and I keep hearing things about this Juve celebration, how this year it was out of this world. It was absolutely fantastic. What was different about Juve this year at Tobago Carnival?
Well, what we did, we positioned the Mother's Life Festival prior to Juve. The Mother's Life Festival started from midnight on Friday and went straight into Juve morning. And that's an aspect of the culture for Tobago that is really unique, and it really needs to get that push. Mud is to Tobago just as the oil is to the jab in Grenada, right? And it's one element that is unique for us. And I must say, Mother's Life team, they would have executed that Friday midnight, coming straight into the Saturday morning. And very early, the bands were out. The reports from about 4:30 is that all the bands were positioned and ready to go. They were on the road. And the Juve, it really allows for a freer enjoyment of the festivities, you know. And I mean, Tobagonians, they really buy into it. So
Seems as though Tobago didn't sleep at all from Friday straight up until Monday morning. But 30,000 preliminary data suggesting 30,000 masqueraders on the road. Does that suggest a climb in participation as compared to previous years?
Well, let me not say 30,000 masqueraders on the road. 30,000 participating in the carnival events. So carnival, the main activities really kicked off from on Wednesday night. There was the Soca Titans competition. I personally attended the Soca Titans competition, and you could see it was, I mean, top-notch performances. I know that the artists, they would have done a lot of rehearsals and they went into workshops in terms of how they should present themselves on stage. It's our version of a Soca Monarch, and I must say congratulations to Verse, that was the winner. And you're really seeing that these contestants really put a lot of energy and resources behind preparation for the Soca Titans competition. On Thursday at the Magdalena Grand, the Calypso Fraternity held their competition. On Friday night, just before the Mother's Life Mud Festival started, there would have been the Monarch of Mass competition in Scarborough. So it would have been non-stop activity from Wednesday coming straight up until Sunday night.
Any reports in respect to the level of participation from members of the association in respect to the mass bands? Did mass bands find themselves sold out this year? I recall that in our conversation about 2 weeks before Carnival, you said we were getting to that point, but there were costumes that were still available. What was the capacity according to members of your association?
All right, so let me start with my band, Iconic Mass. So definitely we were sold out for Juve and for Contemporary Mass, right? We were sold out, I mean, up to Sunday morning, masqueraders were showing up at the band house asking if they were last minute pieces. I literally didn't have anything to offer them, right? I would have touched base with some of the bigger bands, Jade Monkey, Fog Angels, and they were also very close to capacity in terms of their sales. We are yet to host a meeting so I can really get info from everyone, but I know that their numbers were much higher, than last year, and that is very encouraging. And from me walking the road, I saw a lot of masqueraders at the different cluster points because everybody had different starting points. And it speaks volumes to the participation when it comes to mass on a whole.
So then overall, how would you describe Tobago Carnival 2024?
Definitely a success. It's definitely one that now ranks with international carnivals. I mean, even in my band, listening to the feedback on the ground from masqueraders, there were masqueraders who would have just returned from Miami Carnival, and they were admitting to me that this road experience was better than what they would have experienced within 2 weeks ago. So it says that we are doing a lot of things right here, and we really need to continue doing it and also improve on the offering to make sure that the market knows Tobago is the place to be when it comes to October. We are the more affordable carnival. We are also a very safe carnival because we didn't have any incidents, any major reports of anything happening coming from the Trans-Tobago Police Service that would have affected or impacted the mass in any negative way. So Tobago really is the option come October.
Indeed, it would seem all indicates to suggest that. One media house did report that it spoke to some patrons who expressed a lot of satisfaction with Juve celebrations, but there seemed to have been a lack of organization with Parade of the Bands. Any idea what that lack of organization led to?
With regards to Parade of the Bands, I can't say that there was a lack of organization because from the get-go in the morning, we started at 11 a.m. Most of the bands took to the road between 11 a.m. and midday. So that's a slight delay in start. I wouldn't call it anything significant. That's the element of mass that is unpredictable. But once the bands were on the road, we were able to flow on the streets. We didn't have any issues on the road in terms of nothing that I could identify. I mean, it all went smoothly according to the reports that came into me, you know. And we went straight up until I think the last band that came off the road was just before 8 p.m. And at 8 p.m. we had the fireworks celebration, you know. So all went well according to reports coming through my office.
That's very good to note. I know that you just described Tobago as being the place to be for October. Carnival is one of the best and one of the safest, because you're right, no reports of any major incidents taking place either. But what does this mean in respect to the evolution of Tobago Carnival in its third year? It's still very much the younger carnival in the Caribbean, the youngest carnival in the Caribbean. But then how would we describe the evolution of Tobago's carnival? Again, just fantastic things I'm hearing about it.
Yeah, so it's something that, as you said, it's third year. It's something that we need to continue to build. I know that the collaboration prior to the carnival with the Tobago Promoters Association, the Pan-Trinbago Tobago Division, the Calypsonians, Tuco from Tobago, as well as Toka, we all sat down and had meetings with the CEO of the Tobago Festival Commission. And those weekly meetings really helped in planning and really executing the carnival over the period of the 1 month of October, because the carnival really started with some fetes during the first and the second week of carnival. There was a Blue Food Festival 1 week ago, and we flew straight into, as I said, the Soca Titans and the main carnival activities over the last 45 days. So, I mean, once we continue this way, I think 2025, we will have an even better version of what transpired this year. I know they have indicated, Mr. Cowan has indicated through Festivals Commission, that we're going to have a post-mortem in a couple of weeks, and the actual planning for 2025 will begin. Right? There are different marketing strategies that we know we have to do this time to really reach out to the wider world. I think Trinidad knows about the Tobago Carnival. There are some corners in Trinidad that still, they haven't heard about it, and we really need to make sure everyone is aware of it, and that we can increase the participation from the 30,000, you know?
So we could, it's very early, still have to do the analysis of 2024, but already plans you're hinting at for a bigger carnival in 2025, for an even bigger carnival in 2025.
Yeah, definitely. And we're really anticipating the opening of the new wing of the ANR Robinson International Airport. Because come 2025, the government has promised that the airport terminal will be completed. And that promises a lot more opportunity for airlift to come to the island. So the same international masquerader who may have had a challenge over the last 2 to 3 years, it should be an easier process for them to get to the island come 2025 October.
So now that we've raved about just how great Tobago Carnival is, what are the learning lessons from 2024 that need to be applied going forward? You did mention some marketing ideas and marketing issues that need to be ironed out. But beyond that, what are some of the lessons that can be taken from this year's celebration?
Outside of the marketing, I think the bands, we need to really support one another. I would have seen where some bands were on the road and their numbers may have been a bit small, what I would call the size of a section. And I think the band leaders, we need to just pull together some more and let's pool resources, right? It's not necessary that we have to register 30 bands to be on the road. But if we pool resources and cluster, even if we have 15 or 12 bands on the road, right? Each person can develop their own product and be a section in a greater product. And that I think will work for the band leaders. So it's something that a conversation that we're going to have very early with the smaller bands and try to encourage them to pool resources, cluster, and it will work out economically for them come 2025. That's the main area I think for mass that we need to work on.
Well, I have read that the Secretary for Tourism, Culture and Antiquities has hinted at the possibility of expanding Tobago Carnival to 4 days. Are you ready for that if that were to happen? Are you looking forward to a 4-day Tobago Carnival?
Anything that will improve the carnival is something that I would look forward to. Yeah, I mean, it would be welcoming to hear the plans. Let's sit, discuss, and let's see how we can add value to the proposed plan. But 4 days of festivities is something that we'll welcome.
Something I would look forward to. I wasn't there this year. It's too late for regrets, but all the descriptions just suggest how much you need to start booking in advance to get to
advance. Yes, definitely. And I would say to the persons who were here this year, the Caribbean Airlines portal usually gives you tickets 1 year in advance. So now is a good time to buy in for next year.
That's it. I see the marketing has started already. That's excellent. That's really good. But a 4-day carnival is certainly something that I think everyone will look forward to. There's always a carnival to banker when the celebrations end. So that being extended, the possibility of that being extended, even that consideration alone will get many excited. Mrs. Sandy, listen, congratulations to you and to all members of the association, to all stakeholders who pulled it off. Thank you very much. I know that you yourself, from all the hard work that has been put in, you're still recovering. So to wake up very early to join us on this program, we appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. You're most welcome.
All the best and congratulations once more. Well, ladies and gentlemen, as I mentioned at the beginning of the interview and throughout the course of that interview, that's just a report on the part of Mr. Sandy. There still need to be discussions to analyze, really to give an autopsy of Tobago's Carnival 2024 from the association standpoint. But all indications and all, all news coming out of Tobago suggests it was indeed a successful Carnival 2024 with the greater participation. Even the Hotel Association on the island indicated that the room stocks on the island, the available rooms were at near capacity levels. So even to hint at the possibility of a 4-day Tobago Carnival is something that the association, as Mr. Sandy said, anything that will improve a Tobago Carnival even more we will definitely relish the opportunity to have such discussions. So congratulations to Tobago on hosting a grand celebration, a fantastic celebration. All the photos, all the reports indicate it was great. Too late for me to have regrets personally, but the Caribbean Airlines portal is open. So let's take a break and let me see what I can do in the meantime. Probably gonna have to run and get the credit card. We'll be right back after this.
My mom has been shopping here for the last 15 years. So coming here with her, now I have my own family.
The variety of items, cleanliness of the place, the spaciousness.
My favorite section is household.
My husband loves the hardware section and the auto section. My favorite would be stationery.
Price Club is the low price leader, leading supermarket in TNT.
They are the best. I would recommend Price Club to anybody.
When it comes to Pira and Ladoo, I just use Chattox, Ladoo and Pira Mithai Mix. It's a combination of traditional ingredients in one pack. I don't spend all that time preparing different ingredients like Ma. 3/4 of the work is done. So now I can make fresh, delicious Pira and Ladoo in about 15 minutes with the convenience of Chattox, Ladoo and Pira Mithai Mix. Now Ma's kitchen is a Chatta kitchen.
I have been shopping at Price Club from the beginning. I love most of all the friendliness of the staff.
I shop here because my children love meat and I love it.
My favorite section is the vegetarian section. They have such a wide variety, which I love.
I have been out shopping, to check out the prices, but here at the Lewis, it's the best.
I have tried other places and I came right back to Price Club because they are the low price leader.
The season of lights is bright and tasty with Royal Castle's delightful veggie burger made with a healthy and nutritious patty. It's great on its own or in a combo with one side and a 16-ounce drink. So whether it's lunch, dinner or a snack, Royal Castle's veggie burger fits right in with your fasting and festivities. Happy Diwali from Royal Castle.
I just love Diwali. I put everything in place so my home is perfect for this season. And thanks to the little store, I get everything in one place. I picked up some Anand and Shankar brand wax diyas, hand-painted clay diyas, my coconut oil, cotton wicks, all my puja items, plus step-by-step guide to Diwali puja and Havan. My home will look and feel like Diwali with pretty hanging decorations, floating lights, rangolis and flowers, all from the little store. I'm all set to welcome Lakshmi Ma and all my guests. I've ordered some delicious fresh mithai in decorated boxes and bags and got some frozen vegetarian products, spices, all my groceries and hygienic paper sohari leaves for a delectable Diwali feast. Go to the little store in Curep. They've got additional parking and they're open on Sundays. Check them on Facebook or call 663-4415.
SM Group International Limited, your solutions partner for the latest innovations, brands and competent staff to meet your needs. We provide products and services in the following divisions: executive services, event rental and services, power and heavy equipment, construction and property management, food and beverage, aggregate and sales and distribution. Check out more on our products and services at www.smgrouptt.com. Contact us at 221-7445 or email at info@smgrouptt.com. We are SM Group International, your solutions partner.
is your WESN News on the Hour. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for joining us. Here are the headlines. Social welfare checks may arrive later this month, Ministry advises. American Airlines tests new tech to prevent line skipping during boarding. 2 suspects arrested, wallet snatching and firearm with fake plates seized. And 2 men killed in separate weekend incidents. Now for the details. The Ministry of Social Development is informing social welfare grant recipients that check deliveries may be delayed this month. According to the ministry, checks will be distributed by TT Post between October 29th and November 4th. This delay will not affect those on direct deposit who will receive funds in their bank accounts as usual. Police have arrested 2 suspects in separate incidents. In Port of Spain, officers witnessed a man snatch a wallet and push the victim to the ground on the Brian Lara Promenade. After a brief chase to the San Juan taxi stand, police apprehended the suspect, recovering cash and a penknife. The victim is receiving medical treatment. In a separate exercise, North Central officers stopped a Nissan Frontier in Curep, finding a revolver, ammunition, and a fake license plate. The suspect was arrested and the vehicle taken to the St. Joseph Police Station. Investigations are ongoing. Police are investigating 2 separate killings over the weekend. Taxi driver Roger Bailey was shot in an apparent robbery while transporting passengers in La Horquita on October 27th. Bailey was driving 3 women when he picked up a male passenger who reportedly pulled a gun, took his cash and fatally shot him before robbing a female passenger. Meanwhile, the body of Stephen Jack was discovered off a precipice in Arima's Calvary Hill on October 26th with multiple gunshot wounds. Investigations into both incidents are ongoing. American Airlines is testing new technology to prevent passengers from boarding flights ahead of their designated groups. Trialed at 3 U.S. airports, the system alerts gate agents with a sound if someone scans a ticket too early, prompting them to politely ask the passenger to wait until their group is called. The airline reports positive results so far, aiming to make the boarding process smoother and more orderly for all customers. Well, that's news to the hour on WESN. I'm Naomi McNish. Thanks for watching.
Welcome back to AM Prime, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks for being with us this morning as we continue with this edition of the program. Part 2 to a conversation with Mr. Rodney Piggott, cultural activist in respect to reparations. Yesterday, Mr. Piggott laid the platform in respect to the ethical and empirical arguments of reparations, a discussion which was really dominated the recent CHOGM meeting, some of that took place in Samoa. So in respect to that, following that conversation yesterday in the platform, we get into part 2, where this morning we are discussing CARICOM's Reparation Commission, the 10 points that they put forward in respect to this particular subject matter. I'm joined once more by Mr. Piggott. Good morning, sir, and welcome to the program.
And good morning to you, Keaton. Good morning to WESN, its listeners worldwide. Good morning to Trinidad and Tobago, first of all. All right. Hope everyone's doing well. And if you're on your way to work, be careful. Take your time. Don't rush. Lives are more important.
Indeed, indeed. Thank you very much for that. So, as I mentioned, you laid that platform yesterday, and you also had that it put forward. What are the other points made on the part of the Commission?
Very good. And I did send you a slew of documents, Keaton, for your own reading. It's important that your listening audience understand that this conversation that we're having, or that we have with the wider public, let's say outside of family members, right? Because the reparative justice is not necessarily for the country that we live in, it is for the Africans within those countries, right? So we're not looking for reparative justice for Trinidad and Tobago per se, right? So everyone doesn't need to weigh in on whether or not we need to pursue that. That is our family business. We are the ones that are living with the trauma and dealing with the after effects of what our ancestors went through, right? So it's a courtesy for us to have these types of conversation and even listen to the views of others who are not necessarily family members, so to speak, right? It's no different, Kitan, than if, you were bringing, like the O.J. Simpson murder trial, and then they had a civil suit. So after the murder trial for the crime, there was a civil suit at the family of the woman that O.J. supposedly killed that brought a suit against O.J. Imagine now that everyone else outside of that family weighing in and trying to tell them whether or not they should bring that suit or not. It is they who suffer the loss of their daughter, of their sister, or whatever. And it is they now who are seeking remedy for that loss. And so everyone else just really needs to mind their business or support the family. You want to have your conversations off air and behind the scenes as to what them Africans think they're doing, looking for reparations and all these kind of things. That's your business. But don't come out into the public and try to spill that as if your voice actually matters to us. Okay? We are the ones that are dealing with that pain. We're the ones that are dealing with the after effects, the trauma, the post-traumatic stress disorder that we're dealing with. And there's a book out on that, Kitan. You need to get that by Dr. Joy DeGroy. Very, very informative book that informs you as to why it is that this is so important to us. They recently did some laboratory tests in which they discovered that trauma is passed down through generations, right? So it's not just physical ailments like diabetes and prostate cancer and these things that can be genetically passed on, but actually trauma is in fact passed on. They did the experiment with some mice where they traumatized a pregnant mice, made it afraid of a certain object. Whenever it saw that object, the anxiety just went off the charts because they traumatized it to that. Whenever the object flashed, they would shock it and things of that nature. So now they would just show the object, and as it got shocked, it would respond as if it got shocked to seeing that. Of course, this takes a lot of experimenting to get it to that point. Now, once the mice gave birth, they showed that object to the newborn mice, and they responded as the mother responded. You see, so from that, they concluded that trauma itself, stress disorders itself, can be passed on, not can be, but is in fact passed on. And we've been saying this for decades, that what our ancestors went through. Go ahead.
The need for institutions to address these concerns, do you think that needs to be part of any reparative justice program where institutions are established and developed to help deal with these traumatic situations that you were speaking of?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I wanted to just share that with you because now as we go through the 10-point plan, you would see that things of that nature has been factored into those 10-point plans called for by the CARICOM nations that met and deliberated on this matter. So first and foremost, a full formal apology, right? They say the healing process for victims and the descendants of the enslaved and enslavers requires as a precondition the offer of a sincere formal apology by the governments of Europe. Now, what are we saying in that sentence? What we're saying in that sentence is not only are we, the Africans, have been impacted, right? In this case, we have been disaffected by what has transpired, but also those who are the families and the descendants of those who participated. So those who own plantations, those who claim to own Africans, and treated Africans as if they did in fact own them, as if you could really own a person, treated them as if they own them, and the torture that they inflicted on them, and the wealth they derived from that process, right? Those descendants of those people, they are also dealing or have a disaffect that they are dealing with, but in their case, it's seen as a benefit, right? And many of them don't really realize that they have also been disaffected, as they now have in their minds that they are superior to Africans. That superiority complex is as much a disaffect as an inferiority complex, right? So that's what we're saying there. So full formal apology by the governments of Europe, right? So we're not going after people. We're not saying to white people, you need to pay us reparations, or you need to give to us, go into your bank account and give to us. No, we're saying to the governments that benefited, the governments that sanctioned the enslavement of the African, because it was a legal process, as your professor keeps saying. It was a legal process. It wasn't a law, right? Because universal law does not recognize you trying to, or at least disaffecting the human rights of another human being. You don't have the right to do that. You can legally put it into your laws to do it, but as far as it being law, universal law that we recognize as the supreme law, you know, it certainly cannot be done there. So yes, full formal apology from the governments of those who perpetrated this crime against the African humanity. Repatriation is the second one, right? They say over 10 million Africans were stolen. Now, those are the figures that we have on the ground that say between 10 and 12 million Africans made it into the enslavement process. So they made it to America, they made it to Europe, they made it to Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, and the full Caribbean. But in order to get that 10 to 12 million living souls to make it here, you understand, it's 100 million that were extracted itself from the shores of Africa, right? Because only 10% made that journey. You understand what I'm saying? Only 10% made that journey. So if 10 to 12 million made it here, then it's about 100 million that was actually extracted. So the continent of Africa suffered that brain drain, as 100 million of its brilliant minds and souls were kidnapped and stolen from the continent, right? So repatriation for those who of African stock who want to go back to Africa, right? That these governments provide the ways and means for them to repatriate, right? So that's and of course when you talk about institutions, that will take an institution to factor that and to get that together and so forth. But that's the demand, right? Indigenous Peoples Development Program. So we have not left out those people like the Caribs and the Tainos and so forth, who suffered, right, a huge reduction of their population by millions of people. They say was just reduced due to diseases and when the what I call the terrorizers, you may call them colonial powers, but I call them terrorizers because that's what they did. They were terrorists, right? When they came into these lands and treated these lands as if there was no one there. You understand? You're the king and queen sitting in Europe saying, hey, there's nobody in Jamaica. There's nobody in Trinidad and Tobago. Let's just go and claim that as ours. But what about the people that were living there all their lives, raising their families there? Those people were now reduced to insignificant, right? And their numbers were drastically reduced. So we're looking for Indigenous Peoples Development Program. Cultural institutions, right? So this is very important. European nations have invested in the development of community institutions such as museums and research centers in order to prepare their citizens for an understanding of these crimes against humanity. These facilities serve to reinforce within the consciousness of their citizens an understanding of their role in history as rulers and change agents. There are no such institutions in the Caribbean where the crimes against humanity were committed. So our people who were disaffected, adversely affected don't really know what happened to them. This is why you have so many Africans saying, we don't need reparations. Let's just, I had my University of London degree. I'm good to go. They don't really know what happened to them. Yes,
Let me
go
just
ahead.
interject and ask you, because I've listened you to the first 4 points, and it is my thinking, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that these are things that we can do on our own. We can create on our own as a Caribbean community a development program for indigenous people. We can on our own develop cultural institutions so people know where they came from, people understand who they are and their history. I mean, in respect to repatriation, that I understand that there are blurred lines there, because there needs to be avenues in respect to international law to resettle individuals in respect to matters of citizenship. However, there are no barriers to people who want to go back to Africa. There are no barriers that exist there. So are these things that we can be doing on our own?
Well, the barriers that exist for these things to be implemented on a wide scale, not on a one-to-one scale, because that is being done in pockets. For instance, the Emancipation Support Committee is such a pocket where the re-Africanization of the mind is taking place, right? But that's a pocket, and that is supported by subventions from the Trinidad and Tobago central government. Is providing funding to help a lot of those programs work, right? So what we're saying is this needs to be done on a wide scale. And in order for it to be done effectively on a wide scale, it is going to take finance to get that done. So this is where the monetary part comes in now. You understand? So it's not money to go into my pocket or go into his pocket or her pocket. It's monies now to finance these programs, because as you know, Keaton, all of these things take finance in this world that we live in. Just communication alone, just to put together the communication material that will be needed, right? Because we can't just have these one-on-one conversations on wesn and expect everybody now to be enlightened as to what's going on. So there has to be a mass campaign to get that done. That means printed materials. That means airtime, and so forth and so forth, to reach the massive amount of people, because that is where the change is going to come in. Like I said, you have institutions like the Emancipation Support Committee, and I'm sure you have a few others. You have Yoruba communities throughout Trinidad and Tobago that keep themselves and their families within that group. Their minds are re-Africanized. They speak an African language and so forth and so forth. But the majority of Africans in the diaspora are clueless. You understand? And so that's what needs to be, that they need to be reached in order for the generation coming in to begin to see change. As long as we continue to try to plug the dike one finger at a time, and every time you plug a hole there, another one pops out, we're not going to get anywhere. And we've been doing this for hundreds of years now, plugging the dike. In the United States alone, there are many institutions. There are educational institutions that are African-centered, right? Where they teach the student from an African perspective, just as you have here, Hindu schools and so forth and so forth. There's a plethora of those in the United States and other places. But those are dots on the screen. To connect those dots so that you have the effect. An old African proverb says, when spider webs unite, they can actually tie up a lion. So as long as we remain as dots on the screen, the power is not disseminated, the power is not felt, and the change, the massive change we need that is going to cause a worldwide shift in global affairs, that does not take place. You understand? You had on your show yesterday, Ms. Uzuma Wadada. I don't know what we call your government name is. My government name is still Rodney Pigott, right? But she has perhaps formally change her name. That's a re-Africanization process that she went through. You understand? That's a program that needs to go widespread, where people understand what the naming process is all about, so that when they have newborn children, you know, they can go about naming their children something that reflects their ancestry and their heritage and so forth and so forth. That is going, all of that is going to take financing, right? So cultural institutions is another area in which those things can take place. Public health crisis, right? Suddenly, well, not suddenly, but over the last couple of 100 years, because of the lifestyle that has been altered of the African. Remember, the African was considered the strongest of stocks, right? So to someone who is a conqueror in their mind, someone who is an enslaver in their mind, they tried this stock over here, the Indian stock and the indigenous people stock here in the Caribbean, in order to build their world, to mine their sugar plantations and so on and so forth. But that didn't work, because the diseases that the Europeans brought killed off most of those, and then the others, quite frankly, could not support the temperature and the, you know, practically almost 24 hours of sun that we have here in the Caribbean. And so when they found the African, this was like, wow, this is the firmest of stock that we could find. These people can be in the sun for 24 hours and they're not dropping dead from heat waves and sun blasts and things of this nature. You understand? So this was a very healthy people, and we were practically resilient to their diseases, right? Because of our immunity systems. So we were of that stock that they considered, this is the finest of stock that we could use to get done what we need to get done. All of a sudden now, because of our lifestyle, the way we eat, what we eat, when we eat, you understand, all of those things now, our spiritual values that we spoke briefly about yesterday, all of those things were just emaciated, mashed up. Now the African is leading the world in lifestyle diseases. The strongest of people. Now we're leading the world in lifestyle diseases. Diabetes, right? You know, sickle cell anemia. What is that? Where did that come from? You know, bronchial problems and so forth and so forth, right? A plethora of lifestyle diseases is what the African is suffering from on this planet. So there needs to be a public health approach that needs to take place here. That is also going to take financing for all of that. African Knowledge Program, that needs to be on a widespread basis where the African understands who he or she is, where you come from. Yes, I was born in Trinidad and Tobago, but my actual heritage is the continent of Africa. That's where my heritage is. My ancestral navel string going back, you know, generations is buried in Africa somewhere. You understand? So I'm not going to give up my heritage to a continent that's been around for millions of years and sever ties with that to say that I'm a Tobagonian, I'm a Trinidadian, and I'm not acknowledging the fact that, you know, my ancestry is actually African, right? And there are many people in the Caribbean that don't know that, throughout the world that don't know that. They don't. The programming that they have been given about Africa is that that's a land of cannibals and backward people and you know. And you're lucky that the enslaver found your family and brought them into the new modern world and saved you from the dark continent and so forth and so forth. So all of your Tarzan movies and how Hollywood went about brainwashing the African to think that Africa was a backward place, not realizing that Africa once fed the world, literally. Over 83% of manufacturing took place in Africa. Africa fed Europe. And then once Europe got a hold of Africa, it underdeveloped Africa and moved the manufacturing out of Africa, right? They still take the natural resources from Africa, take it out of Africa, polish it into finished goods, and then sell those finished goods back to Africa at high prices. So that exploitation still continues. And so this is why governments of Europe and America don't want to acknowledge reparative justice. Because like I said to you yesterday, if they acknowledge that greatest crime, then all of the other sub-crimes like the exploitation of Africa will now come to light, will now float to the surface. What France did to Haiti, after Haiti defeated France in 1804, and in 1825, France put its gunships back in the harbor and say, look, now that you're no longer our slaves, you need to pay us for money that we have now lost because we're not getting that money from your free labor. Pay us 150 million francs. They extorted money from Haiti at the point of a gun. That was extortion. You understand?
Apologies for interjecting, because I know that you are going through the 10 points on the part of the CARICOM Commission, but we are running out of time. If you would just like to,
I'll go through them real quickly without the added input. Psychological rehabilitation. That's number 8. It's very important. 9, technology transfer. Very important. And 10, debt cancellation. We're calling for debt cancellation of all of those African nations that are now tethered to Europe and America and the IMF because they have exploited Africa and plunged her into debt to them so that they can't even, grow the way they want to grow because so much of their GDP has to go to pay Europe and things. So the exploitation continues there. And that's the 10-point plan of the CARICOM nations. Nowhere in there do you see each African gets $1 million. Each African gets $10 million. None of those things you see there. But all of these programs require financing. And that's the financing that we currently do not have. The little piece of money that we have, he has to go to fix roads and maintain hospitals and things of that nature. So when they pulled out, they left us with nothing. They left us less than zero, behind the zero line. We were like -10 when they pulled out, but they gave their plantations owners at least $20,000 each. At that time, $20,000 in today's money is millions of dollars, right? So this is where you now have the heirs of slavery, as I sent you that document also for you to read up and see. These are European now families, wealthy families, who are now waking up to realize that, hey, this money I have is really blood money. This is blood money. Someone suffered and died. Someone was thrown over a ship to the sharks. Let me leave you with a secret point. They say so many Africans were thrown overboard or jumped overboard that the sharks literally following the slave ships and getting all that free food, jumping overboard, literally changed their feeding route. Sharks are a creature that's been around for millions and millions of years, and they had their feeding route that they followed. They altered their feeding route following the slave ships off the west coast of Africa into Europe and the Americas and the Caribbean. That is how much bodies of Africans were spilled into the Atlantic. They say if you line up the bones that are there in the Atlantic Ocean, you could have a straight line from West Africa to the shores of America, just by lining up those bones. That's how many Africans went over into the waters and so forth. Not talking about the ones that died on the copper lines, not talking about the ones that died on the raids, because they raided villages in order to capture Africans. It wasn't such a thing as Africans just freely selling their own people. And where that was done, it was done in two places, where a gun was put to the head of the chief, right? You give us your captives, you give us your people, or we take you and your family into enslavement. And 2, there was a bondage system already in Africa. There was no slavery in Africa. Slavery come from Slavs. There was no slavery in Africa. There was a bondage system, right? If I captured you in war, you served me and my people for a period of time to pay off that debt of me capturing you, right? You violate the terms of the community, you go into bondage and so forth to pay off that, right? So when they came and said, sell us your captives and so forth, the thinking, and we heard this directly from a chief in Cameroon, we heard this directly from them, that what they were thinking in their head is, I'm selling my people into this system that we have. They were shocked when they found out the conditions under which they were literally selling their own people into. They had no idea the horrors that the people were being sold into, because in African practice and lifestyle, there was no such practice, right? We honored life, and there was no such practice of putting men and women in chains and treating them less. We didn't even treat animals like that. Animals had rights.
Well, Mr. Pick, I want to thank you very much for joining us over the last 2 days. I know that I have, in particular, stayed a bit quiet during the course of these interviews, because I think it's important to give you the opportunity to explain the 10 points on the part of the CARICOM Commission. But the information that you've shared with me and the information that you've shared with our viewing audience, I want to thank you very much for going through the 10-point plan. And certainly, I of course do have questions about it, but those questions can be reserved for an interview on another day on AM Prime. But at this point, sir, I want to thank you so much for your time, for all your efforts and energy, for joining us to educate us and inform us, and to share your opinions as well. Thank you, sir.
Very good. Thank you very much, Kitan, and most of you and your audience have a great day, a safe day.
You too, sir. All the very best. Take care. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that you were listening to Mr. Biggers and the information that he would have shared with you both yesterday and this morning. I know that many people will have their thoughts and opinions in respect to justice, but I hope at least it's laid a platform for a better understanding as for exactly what reparative justice means and what it would look like based off of those 10 points in respect to the Commission. Now, you may be wondering why there were no counter arguments this morning. I believe that this discussion requires that of a panel where we are able to have multiple personalities with different perspectives to answer such questions. I do have my thoughts and opinions as well, but at least this morning, again, the platforms will lead to that there is an understanding in respect to reparative justice. That being said, that is the end of AM Prime, this edition of AM Prime anyway. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me this morning. I hope that you learned something. I hope that we stimulated your opinion a bit. Of course, to Tobago, once more, congratulations for a great and fantastic October Carnival. All reports indicate that it was a resounding success. And of course, to Mr. Dexter Sandy of the October Carnival Association, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Again, to Mr. Piggott, for your time yesterday and this morning. To my team in WESN and Ryan Gomez-Burke, fondly known as the headache of WESN, thank you very much for joining us. And to Milewood, of course. Milewood, ladies and gentlemen, I must say, has a lot of patience. So thank you very much to Milewood every morning for his energy and efforts. And to Naomi McNish for producing AM Prime, of course. We are grateful. I'm Keaton Shaw reminding you today is a good day to have a good day, and we'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye.
WESN.
Perfection doesn't happen by chance. Like an artist, the cook selects the main ingredient, one that is worthy of a proud cultural tradition. Trusted to enhance your creations with its richness and versatility to create a cooking masterpiece. The secret is simple. The brand we know, the brand we trust, the brand our ancestors have been using for generations.
There is only one pure cow brand ghee. Look for the marks of authenticity.
What does abuse me for? I don't